Hi and welcome to this channel. In this video I'm going to talk about how to integrate Firestore of Firebase into your Flutter app. So first we go through some theory to understand how the Firestore works, because that's very important to know how the database structure is, so you know how to adapt your data and store your data in the database. Please subscribe and like this video to know more about the future videos. In Firestore we have collection, we have document, and we have field. You can think of this structure as a library. In your library you have many books. For example, book 1, book 2. If you choose book 1, inside the book 1 you have many chapters. Inside each chapter you have text, you have figure, maybe you have tables and lots of elements. So here, for example, we have a collection of users, and then we have user 1, and then user 1 has many fields. For example, name, age, gender. This should be a straightforward database structure. Let's consider another scenario. In this scenario, you want to store user's name only. You don't want to specify details for each user. For example, I draw this separately. You need to have list of users. You just need to have the names of users. Jack, for example, Jane, Tom, Jill, for example, just the names. So in this case, how do we structure this data according to the Firestore? In this case, this should be obvious that users is our collection, and then we have the fields that we want to store. So what is missing in between is the document. In Firestore you can have auto-generated document in your database. So you say that Firebase, please generate a random document for me. For example, 2FA0K and then Jack. You don't need to do anything about this auto-generated document. You just say create collection and store Jack, Jane, Tom, and Jill. And Firestore takes care of the auto-generated document for you. For each one, it generates an ID. And And when you want to retrieve your data, you just say in the users, give me the fields. And the Firebase will retrieve these fields for you. You can also have many collections. For example, you have users collection. You can have products collection. Or you can think of users as customers and then products. For products, you can have documents of food, documents of household items, and so on. For food, you can have fields, product name, product type, for example, price, and household. You can have price, and then section. For example, the section it is stored in your shop, and then based on these you can store your data. But keep in mind these two scenarios, and based on these two you can store your data and retrieve your data easily. Once you understand the structure of your data and structure of Firebase, it is very easy to store and retrieve data. So this was the theory. Now let's go to the code of Flutter app. Just to note that in this video we are going to only store the data in the database. For updating, retrieving, and deleting the data, I'm going to make another video because it's going to be a very long video. So subscribe to make sure that you get notified when I upload the next video. So let's jump to the coding. Okay, after the theoretical part, let's get to the practical part and coding. Here I have created a new Flutter app and I modified the default Flutter app to look like this. I have two text boxes and one button. If we go to the code of the app, it is a very simple app. It has just one text, please register, and container which has the email address, and another container which has the password, and I have a button that says register. When this button is pushed, a username and password will be sent to Firebase and this account is created. After the registration, the application is navigated to the second screen. In the second screen, I have a text, please enter the information below, and I have a container text field, and I have a button that stores the information inside the Firestore. If you are not familiar with the authentication in Firebase, I created a video that explains all the authentication, this part, authentication, using email and password. You can watch that to get up to speed in this activity. In the second activity or second screen, we do Firestore and we store the data that user enters into the Firestore. So let's register a user. This is a second screen, and here inside my project I have registered the user and I want to store the information that user enters here. If you remember the theoretical part, I explained about the collection in the Firestore, and there are two scenarios that we can follow. So in the first scenario, you have only username in your app or any other information and you want to store that information in your Firebase. and you are not going to store any details. And the second scenario that you're going to store detailed information about each user. For this Firestore project, you need your JSON file from Firebase. Inside the Android part of the Flutter, inside the app, I have Google Services.json. I explained how to get this file in the first video, so I linked to that specific time of video so you can watch it if you need to know. And I'm going to divide this video into step-by-step instruction so it is easier to follow and you can check whether you have done things right or not. The first step is to go to your Firebase and you open the develop section and you go to database subsection. Inside here you create a database and you choose test mode and then you click done. Okay, now this is your empty database cloud Firestore. This is the first step. For the second step, we go to our code and we go to pubspec.yaml file, which is here, and we are going to import a package inside our project. How to know which package? I just Google in the pub.dev we have Cloud Firestore package. We go to installing and this is the dependency we need to add. So we need to add this one. And we paste it here under the dependencies, under Cupertino icons, and I have other packages for authentication as well. It is also a good practice to have Firebase core package as well as Firestore. Now we click on packages get. Okay, this part is done. In the third part, we go to our second screen where we capture details from user and we need to import our Firestore package, firestore.dart. This is a simple third step. The fourth step is to code and to integrate Firestore inside our application. So first I'm going to create an instance of Firestore. Make sure that the Firestore here is capital F. And now I want to add an action where the action takes place when the user clicks the submit button. So we go to the raised button and inside the onPress we're going to make changes. We say Firestore, the variable that we created, dot collection. Remember the theoretical part that we talked about? This is the collection of Firestore, and then we name our collection, for example users. We say dot add. What we need to add? We need to add our data which the user enters. What is the field that you want to have inside your Firestore? So I say the field is username, and then you enter colon, and then you enter the value that user enters here. If we check the text field here in the code, in the text field, I get the value that user enters here unchanged. The value that user enters equals to the username variable. So I say that I want to save this username that the user enters inside the field username in my database. This is the first field. If you have other fields, you add comma and you add other fields. For now, we just test with just one field. And if I go back to our database, you can see that the database is empty. And in the code, we said that save the username inside the collection with the name users. So we don't have the collection users here. The Flutter and the Firebase will create this collection for you if there is no collection with the same name. So I save the project and I test this application by entering a username, for example, username 1, and I submit. If I go back to our database, now I have the users collection and username. Notice that we mentioned the collection name and then we mentioned the fields, or in this case just one field. And the Firebase and Firestore automatically generated document for us. So if another user saves their information, another document will be generated and your user data will be saved separately. Just remember that when you make the changes and you add package name to your pubspec.yaml and you change the code inside your activity and page, just stop the application and run it again from scratch. That way the changes will be implemented. That's the all steps you need to take for integrating Firestore into your application. So let's go to second scenario. As we discussed in the theoretical part, you want to have a collection and for each user you want to store some data. So in that case you will have users, you will have the document, for example here, the username will be your document and inside that you will have a couple of fields. For that we need text fields, one for username, the other one is for example for age, and we can add another one for gender as well. So let's get this text field and create another text field, and we store the value. When the user enters the value, we store it in a variable age, and we need to define that at the top here. Because the age is integer, we need to parse the value to integer, and then maybe we have another container and we store the gender of user inside a variable. Now I have username, age and gender. So let's see how we can store our data in the second scenario. Here inside the raised button, inside unpressed, before we said that firestore.collection users.add. Now we want to specify the document as well. So we say firebase.collection users is the same. We say .document. What is the document name? Is the username. So this will be username. We don't say .add. We say .set data. In the set data, we specify our fields just like before. Age is age and gender. we'll have the value of gender that user enters. Now let's save and we submit. Now here we see that Firebase created username 3 and inside it created age and gender. So this is the second scenario where you have the document name, you know which field, which value to specify for the document, and inside that you can store many fields. To repeat the first scenario, you just wanted to list usernames, so you didn't specify document, and the Firestore created a random document name for you. So this is how you integrate Firestore inside your application. There are, of course, other functions like reading the data, modifying the data, and deleting the data from Firestore. I will create another video for that topic. This video has been a long video, so please subscribe to this channel. You will be notified about the future videos. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. See you in another video.